Hey all, Heber here. So today we are comparing the Tier 7 French heavy cruiser Martel with the new Tier 8 French heavy cruiser the Saint-Louis. And I'm gonna go through all the differences in the ships in this video and hopefully give you an idea of whether it'll be worth it to actually invest into this Tier 8 here. And as you can see, the ships look pretty much the same. The bridge is a little bit different. That's Martel at the top and Saint-Louis on the bottom here, but overall they're very similar, and that's not just in looks, but we'll get to those details later. So when you first look at the two ships in the menu, they look awfully similar, and really they are. I mean, even after you watch this video here, you will figure out that okay, there's really not that much that separates these ships here. But first of all, I'm running the same commander build on both ships for this video here. It's actually Roux, that's the commander here. I just have the Alice Thompson guys on top, and then I have Takao and Assure Lane Baltimore as inspiration. So this is an agile build, but it doesn't matter as long as I have the same build on both ships. I also have the same upgrades on both ships, as you can see. We have the turret rotation in the first slot, and then we have double rudder, and then we have the improved reload in the last slot. Both ships are fully researched and of course fully upgraded. So what you'll see here is the best both ships can do. So if we first look at the sonar here, then to my surprise, I didn't notice this until I actually did this comparison here. Saint-Louis sonar is actually better than Martel's sonar. Not by much, but still enough to actually warrant the fact that it is better. 4.4 versus 4.7, that's enough to be noticeable, and it's not bad actually. It's probably one of the strongest pluses Saint-Louis has over Martel here. It's only the range that's different, though the duration and the reload is the same. So if we here next look at the heel, again you'll see Saint-Louis having a slight advantage here, not by much, but it is still an advantage, so we should recognize it. But really, this is so small that it should hardly count for anything really. Alright, next up we have a look at the engine boost, and as you can see, it is exactly the same between the two ships. There's no difference at all. So next up we have something else I didn't realize until now, and that's actually that the reload time on the main battery reload boost, should you choose to equip it, is actually faster on Saint-Louis here, and actually by quite a bit. Probably, about 55 seconds, something like that. That's actually also, that's a minute you cut off that. That's not bad either. Other than that, everything is the same. Alright, next up, let's have a look at the catapult fighter. And as you can see, the stats are exactly the same. You get an extra consumable on Saint-Louis, but that's it. And then Saint-Louis has something else that I didn't notice earlier, and that is you can actually pick a spotter plane on this Tier 8 cruiser here instead of the other plane or the heel. And that's again something to consider. 10% better main battery grouping. It's not really that useful on a cruiser, but nonetheless, it's still better grouping, and you have 5 of them. Alright, let's move on to the more numbers focused stats here and look at survivability here. Martel at 38,000 hit points versus Saint-Louis at 41,000. So it's like an increase, not huge, but it is an increase. And Saint-Louis in the end wins out on hit points, obviously, because it is a Tier 8. But also worth noticing is the torpedo damage reduction is higher on Saint-Louis as well. Alright, next up we have the overall artillery, and it's as close as it can possibly be between the two ships without being exactly the same. The secondary is fire a little bit faster on Saint-Louis, and you get less fire chance for weird reasons, while Saint-Louis also gets a whopping 100 meters more firing range compared to Martel. So really, the artillery is exactly the same. Next up, we have an area where Martel actually excels, and that is the torpedo range. The torpedo damage is also slightly higher, but that's not that important. The range though is important because Martel likes to, you know, stay in open water and kite ships, and having an extra kilometer of torpedo range is actually quite important, because it could be that 1 kilometer that, you know, is the difference between the torp hit and the torps running out before actually reaching the enemy. So this is definitely a plus on the Charles Martel side of things here, definitely. Next up, we'll have a look at anti-aircraft defense, and Saint-Louis wins hands down here. There's lots of different numbers, but I'm just gonna say, well, you get about 25%, 30% better AA in Saint-Louis. So yeah, something to consider there. Alright, next up is my favorite category, the maneuverability, and it's fairly equal here. As you know, Martel wins out on turning circle and rudder shift as well, while Saint-Louis is a tiny bit faster, but really, for all intents and purposes, the two ships are pretty much the same. Like, Saint-Louis is a little bit slower at turning, but it's hard to notice, and you'll have to be like an aficionado to actually notice this. Next up, we have a more important category, and that's the concealment category. And in this category here, Martel wins hands down by about 500 meters, 400 meters, whatever. That's quite a bit. And of course, this is with an agile build, so I haven't put any points at all into concealment. So, but the ratio will be the same, obviously. So Saint-Louis about 400 meters worse than Martel. So that is definitely something to think about. So both ships have pretty much the same armor layout, and they both have the spaced armor between the citadel and the hull. So they're fairly similar. Like, Saint-Louis gets better midsection armor, and you can feel that. Also, the orange armor is higher, so it protects the citadel a bit better, and you can feel that definitely. So that is also something to keep in mind. Alright, so in conclusion, what can we say? Well, Martel is more agile, it has 1 kilometer more torpedo range, it has 400 meters better concealment, and then, most importantly of all, it's a tier lower, it's at tier 7, so it can face tier 6s. Saint-Louis, on the other hand, it has more armor and more hit points, it's got way better anti-aircraft defenses, it's got slightly better sonar, it's also got, well, pretty good main battery reload time over Martel by almost a minute, really. And you also get the option of a spotter plane on Saint-Louis. So, which ship is the best? Well, you know, objectively, Saint-Louis is the better ship, but we must not forget that Charles Martel is a tier lower, it's at tier 7, while Saint-Louis is at tier 8 and will be facing legendaries. And when you take that into consideration, then Martel is the better pick by far, by a lot. So unless you have some sort of, you know, fetish for French heavy cruisers, there's really no point researching the tier 8 Saint-Louis if you already have Charles Martel. And especially if you already have Colbert at legendary tier, then you have the best of both worlds, and you can really just ignore Saint-Louis. It's a kind of a dud, really, if you ask me. So I hope this video helped you out a little bit, and I'll see you out there.